Welcome, friends, to another exciting episode of A VGM Journey, and I'm your host, The Messenger. The track that we're playing in this week's show is Main Theme from the game Fallout 3, and it was composed by Inon. Like always, we're looking at some pretty great games with some great tracks, and even a couple requests. And I say, let's get right into it with this track from Sonic Adventure. This is Red Hot Skull, and this was composed by Senoue. That red hot track that you just listened to, that was Red Hot Skull from the game Sonic Adventure, and it was composed by Jun Senoue. This track plays in the second half of the stage Red Mountain when Sonic actually goes inside the Red Mountain, and you're in this cave area with lava everywhere, and the track really does bring the heat. And I found myself re-listening to a lot of the music for the soundtrack, and I was reminded that Sonic Adventure's got a really good soundtrack. And I mean, yeah, there are some pretty cheesy tracks on it, but you get a lot of stuff like this where you're listening to it and you're just totally in it. I wouldn't really know how to describe it. You're just vibing with this. And I think about how the series has progressed musically, and I just don't think you're going to ever hear a Sonic track like this ever again. I think it was totally of its time, and that's okay. I think it's pretty great. We're going to move on to a request coming from Meatbug, and they wanted me to play the track Final Boss Final Challenge from the game Stinkoman 20x6, and it was composed by Yuzi Inon. That track that you just listened to, that was Final Boss Final Challenge from the game Stinkoman 20x6. It was composed by Yuzi Inu, and this was a request by Meatbug. So thank you, Meatbug, for that request. Stinkoman 20x6 is one of those browser games where it has a retro game style to it, which for this game, it's got a lot of Mega Man influence in it, and that it's also set in the Homestar Runner universe, which I will be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with Homestar Runner, and that coincidentally the only real exposure that I had to it is through a video game, which in my case was Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People, which is pretty fun. But I will say that the development of this game was pretty interesting. It was an ongoing development that went on for about 15 years. And new levels were coming out every few years. and that this kept on going until 2020 when the last level came out and the final boss, including this track. And what's really weird to me is that this track has kind of an Undertale style to it, and that it just sounds like something that Toby Fox would compose. Which, according to a handful of people on the internet, they think that Yuzi Inu might actually be Toby Fox. I mean, it's one thing if you were going for a track that sounded like Toby Fox, but what if it actually was Toby Fox? So I don't know about you guys, but I think that would be pretty cool. And I would definitely say that this track was a pretty cool track as well. So once again, thank you, Meatbug, for this track. We're going to move on to another request, this time coming from producer of the show and my lovely partner in crime, Carly. And she wanted me to play the track Apartment Theme from Style Savvy, and it was composed by Atsuhiro Motoyama. That track that you just heard, that was Apartment Theme from the game Style Savvy. It was composed by Atsuhiro Motoyama, and this was a request by Carly. So thank you, Carly, for that request. She wanted me to play this track on the show because she kept running into this on random TikTok videos, and I'm not sure if they're fashion related or not, but she wound up really liking this track. And after a while, we found out that this came from Style Savvy, which it's a pretty interesting Nintendo DS game where you run a clothing store and that you help your customers out with picking out outfits for them. And you can also do a lot of store management with buying new products and even creating advertisement for your store, which I'm not going to lie, that sounds pretty cool to me. But you could also participate in fashion contests and showing off your cool outfits, and who knows, you might be pretty style savvy. I also think that this apartment theme is a very good track that could be played on KVGM The Last Wave. 'Cause I don't know, I just feel like Hammock would really like that track. So I just want to once again say thank you, Carly, for that track. And I didn't even think about this until right now when I was making the track list for the episode, but our next track is coming from a game that Carly really likes, and that is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. The track is Let's Play Hockey, and this was composed by Stewart Copeland. That track that you just heard, that was Let's Play Hockey from the game Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and it was composed by Stewart Copeland. And that's going to just about do it for the show this week. If you like what you've been listening to, have your friends check out the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcasting service that you can think of. I'm more than likely going to be on there. You can also check out the show on Taro Player, which is the home for all kinds of different video game and video game music podcasts. You can email the show at vgmjourney@yahoo.com. You can email the show at vgmjourney@yahoo.com. And you could also check us out on X at vgmjourney. We also have a Discord server for the show, which I will provide a link for that in the show notes, where you can hang out with your fellow VGM journeymen and talk about games, music, and even look at some cool art. We're also going to play things out with one more track, and this is the credits theme from the game Mania, and it was composed by Taro Bando. Have a good one, everyone.